So here we have the second point of our partnership between Treasury and Stewardship. And the second point is to promote trust and confidence on church members by communicating how resources are administered by the various levels of our church entities. And it's very interesting because the working policy establishes that regularly we need to present our financial reports at our committees and executive committees and things like that. But this is not what we are mean here. Those reports are on an accounted language or a financial language. This is not the kind of language that church members understand. And when we present those reports, our work is not finished. We need to transform those reports, translate those reports in a language that church members can easily understand. Look at this. This guy says that Smith and Emerson, they says a significant increase in the public transparency, accountability, and institutionalized credibility of the many religious and charitable causes and organizations to which American Christians might consider giving money would have the real effect over time of considerable increase in the amount of money they give. So we know we are doing good things. We know we are not spoiling God's money, but people don't know. We should not assume they know. We need to make sure they know. And this is a great problem for us as an Adventist church. So suggested action, number 1, is to establish a group to study the need for amendments to the working policy and the church manual. We are already doing that. For these documents to harmonize with actions related to adopting the combined offering plan and bring clarity to some offering terminologies. We believe that this will help us to find balance on accountability and transparency. Because some terminologies for offerings does not mean anything for new church members. For instance, if someone comes to the church first time and you say, hey, today is 13th Sabbath offering. What's that? 13th Sabbath offering. We are naming an offering by the day we are collecting the offering, but the name doesn't mean anything for a new person coming to the church. We know, because we are for a long time in the church, we know it's a mission offering. But mission is not in the name of that offering. So how people will know? So we need to bring clarity to some terms we are traditionally using, but not necessarily people understand. For instance, Sabbath school offerings. It's another term that we understand. For us, Sabbath school offerings is synonym of missionary offerings. But that's not obvious for those who are coming to the church. When we say Sabbath school offerings, they understand offerings to the Sabbath school for them to promote the lesson, for them to promote the study. I remember thinking that when I was young. Sabbath school offerings, okay, offerings that I give to those guys that are teaching the lesson. I remember I was thinking that. And I'm a son of a pastor. I'm a pastor's son. Imagine other members. So we need to bring clarity to some of those terms that we are using in terminologies. Another action suggested. Ensure that each administrative entity has a template to share about the use of tithe and offerings to their committees and constituencies. I was giving Bible studies to an American that works for the government. He worked for FBI. He's a very bright mind. He has a very bright mind. And he's coming. He's not baptized yet. He's coming to the church. He's tithing. He's giving offerings. And then when we started to collect offerings, when the NAD started to collect offerings for Ukraine, one day he asked me, Marcos, please help me to understand how the church is using those funds that are being sent to Ukraine. And I said to him, okay, I don't know, but I will find it. You cannot imagine. I was ashamed of him. Because no one in this world could tell me what the church was doing with this money. Anywhere. Everyone was asking. No one was able to tell me how. I am sure the church was using in a right way. But no one could tell me. Until months later, like during that advisory we had in Loma Linda, I found the Ukrainian Union treasurer. And then I asked him, brother, can you please tell me? And he said, yes, I will tell you. He described very well used that money, but no one knows. This is just an example. We are doing nice things. We are doing beautiful things, but no one knows. And this man told me, Marcos, I went through all church websites I could think, trying to find how the church was using the money that was sent to Ukraine. In nowhere I could find any explanation. So if a church member in your union or a visitor that comes to the church wants to know how offerings are used in your union, where can they find that explanation? So we are supposed, if we are serious on what we are doing, if we would be the owners of the church, like I am not the owner of the church, you are not the owner of the church, but if the church will be a business, and if we will be the owners of the church, I am sure we will have a dedicated space in our website to explain for our donors, because we will be interested in that. But as the church belongs to God, we just pretend things are not good in this aspect. We are not accountable to people. We are not clear on what we are doing. I am not meaning we are doing wrong things. We are doing right things. But we don't explain what we are doing. And we do not have a system to make it clear to people. So, third suggested action, to communicate to church about finances through accessible and user-friendly platforms about the following: distribution of tithes and offerings under the various offering plans, regular financial reports, real-life stories provided by beneficiaries following an agreed standard format, linking funds received with progress in the mission. In a conference I worked in south of Brazil, we would receive many requests for funds for development of churches. Much more than we could assist. So we asked them something. We said, you can apply for, you can send us your request, but we will only accept requests if you send a picture, at least one picture of the project or the church or whatever, the history of how it started, and what you are going to do, a detailed description of the project. Why we would like to have that? Because having the picture, I can show people, your money is going to this place here. But if I don't have the picture, how can I show people where the money is going? So people ask money, we give money, and that's it. And we pretend that all church members will know. They will not know. You are taking that money for development, and you are using well, but church members don't know. So you need to show pictures. You need to show stories related to that place. Or in this place, someone was converted that way, and then you show the picture of the place, and then you can expect people will give. But if you do not do that, it's not easy to people to give. This is what happened this week. I came from Mexico. I was in Mexico. I went to Mexico just 1 week ago. Last Wednesday, I arrived in the south of Mexico. From Mexico City was like almost 2 hours flight to this place. It's a very distant place in a jungle. Is a conference that is growing amazingly. They are growing. Here is the Union Stewardship Director. They are preparing breakfast, and here pastors are taking breakfast because on Thursday, last Thursday, here they brought all pastors to hear about stewardship. So we were together for one morning, and then we had lunch, and then they were dismissed. But here, what they are doing is amazing. He's showing the reports to the pastors. He is the Union Stewardship Director. I will show you what he is showing here. Look at this. They know exactly what is happening in each church. They deal with that as a business, not as a church. But at the other side, they are very spiritual. So they bring the two things together, business and spirituality. They know they have in that union 1,500 churches. They have 145 districts. And they have 7 fields. This side here is about tithe. And this side here is about offerings. So they know that on tithes, on the last 12 months, they increased 14.59%. It was an increase on tithe. And here are the amounts. What they got in 2022, 2023. And here, from the 145 districts, they have 127 that grew on tithe. And they know that 18 districts decreased on tithe. What they do, they go there. They focus on the 18 districts. They will analyze what the pastor is doing, not to judge, not to impose, but it's a business. God's business. It's God's business. We are managers of God's business. If we would manage our own business in such a way, why not to manage God's business in a better way? And they are doing that. I was impressed. So they go to those 18 districts. And they analyze what is going on. All the procedures. Everything that is happening. And then they focus on church, not only in districts, but on churches. I don't have the screen for churches here. But they know for each of the 1,500 churches, which one is increasing, which one is decreasing on tithes and on offerings. Here they had an increase of 17% in offerings last 12 months, and in 130 districts are growing in offerings, but 16 are not growing. They will go to those 16. They will find out what is happening. They will suggest actions. They will say, okay, you are not growing. This is what you can do. You can do this and this and this and this and this. And what is here? Those are the churches. Okay. These are the churches that are increasing. 1,100 churches are increasing offerings. But 400 are not increasing, are decreasing. Here, 400 also are decreasing on tithe. And tithes and offerings usually go together. Maybe are almost the same churches. And here they are following on graphics and so on. It's amazing what they are doing. Because they are doing business. God's business. And then, this is the important part. They brought all church leaders. This is one region. We met them on Friday night, last Friday night. It was so hot. You cannot imagine. It was so hot. It was terrible. And then Sabbath morning, they brought, this was an Adventist school, they brought all the other group of church leaders, all church leaders of all churches of this region, plus, pay attention there, plus the constituency of this conference. And they settled the quorum. They saw that there was quorum. Why they brought these people? So there was a congress, but the goal for them to bring them was to tell them how to present a report. How are they doing missionary work? How are they spending their money? They were showing. The treasurer came to bring a report. Sabbath school and personal ministries also gave a report. How many people are being baptized? Churches that are being built. Money for development that has been assigned to different districts. They are showing the name of the districts, the amount of money. I suggested them to also show pictures, and people were there. They were looking. They were amazed to see. So that's why they are growing. That's why, no. This is one of the reasons, maybe, they are growing. But that point is very important, to be accountable. They are taking this seriously. Here is the president of the conference, and here is the secretary of the conference with his wife. Yeah, okay. Another action that is suggested in this point, to communicate to the church about finances through accessible and user-friendly platforms about the following. Educate church members on the importance of identifying themselves while giving and differentiating their giving into tithes, offerings, and donations. This seems to be a very simple thing. But you cannot imagine how many people don't know that. And you know, in some places of the world, I believe that this does not happen here so frequently. But in some places of the world, let me speak openly. If those who are collecting the money know that you don't expect any receipt, but how can you expect a receipt if you identify yourself? If you don't identify yourself on the envelope, it means you don't expect a receipt. But if you don't expect a receipt, what can happen with that money? So that's why we are encouraging people to expect a receipt. But if they expect a receipt, they need to identify themselves. Another thing, I gave a Bible study to a lady that was doing her master's degree in Johns Hopkins. She's a bright girl. Now, no, okay, just that. It's a long story. And we were talking about this, about finances. And she says, Pastor, you know, I am giving my tithe in our church. And okay, she said, I am so grateful God is blessing me. I'm giving my tithe to the church. I said, how do you give your tithe? She said, I just place the money on the offering basket. I laughed and I said to her, you are not giving tithe. Why not, Pastor? I'm giving tithe. I said, no, that's not tithe. Because imagine the church treasurer don't know that you are giving tithe. Only God knows. But the church doesn't know. You need to ensure yourself, because tithe is only tithe if it is 10%, if it is brought to the storehouse, and if it's applied as God asks us to apply tithe. The church has not decided how to apply tithe. That information comes from God, comes from the Bible, comes from the spirit of prophecy. This is not decision on our part. But she was giving tithe for a long time, but that time was going as offering. I am sure the treasurer was counting it as offering. So we need to instruct church members to, when they are giving tithe, to identify tithe as tithe, and to put their names on the envelope to be entitled to receive the receipts. Another action, communicate to church about finances through accessible and user-friendly platforms about the following. Ensure local churches are regularly audited, and the audit reports are presented to church boards, church business meetings, and preferably shared with the church at large whenever possible. This is so important. people should know that we take it seriously. At least once a year, local church treasuries should be audited. And that report should come to church boards and also church business meetings for all members to know what is happening. We are not hiding anything. If we are doing it right, why to hide? We don't fear the truth. Another point, to provide local church leadership with resources to develop and implement an internal control system. Third point of our partnership, to promote financial literacy, particularly from a biblical perspective, to enhance the daily walk of church members with God and their ability to serve others. First suggested action, set up an editorial committee to develop resource materials for financial literacy seminars that local churches can adapt to their context. This is what God led me to do when I started work in stewardship. Because okay, pastor, come to our church to speak about stewardship. Hey, tell me the truth. When people hear that I am coming to their church to speak about stewardship, how many of them will stay on Sabbath afternoon to listen? No one will stay. No one will be there. I will be the only one to speak about stewardship. But if I say, I will bring a family or personal financial seminar. Oh, there is a lot of people in debt. They have financial problems. And they will be willing to know about biblical principles of financial management. And there are marvelous resources that we can use to help church members. And more than that, there are churches that are doing this and inviting neighbors of the church to come, and they are coming. And this is maybe the first way someone will have contact with the church. By knowing about biblical financial principles of managing our finances, giving seminars of that. Another action that is suggested, to train a pool of financial literacy educators comprising of treasurers, stewardship leaders, pastors, and other resource people to provide financial literacy seminars for the local church and the community as a nurturing and evangelistic tool. The fourth point of our partnership, to populate a metric that shows the trend of how church members grow in trust and relationship with God through obedient participation in tithes and regular and systematic offerings. From a stewardship perspective, I am sorry to tell you that, but I am not as much interested in how much the tithe is growing, how much offering is growing. And sometimes stewardship directors come and say, oh, our tithes are growing in our conference. But that's not saying much to me related to this item. If tithe is growing, maybe a rich person, just one person in that conference decided to give tithe and altered the tithe income of that conference. But it doesn't mean that there was a spiritual growth in that conference. So we are not focusing on money, we are focusing on spiritual growth. When we assume that there is a spiritual growth, if more people are participating. So we are looking on participation in two things. One of it is participation. Are more people participating in regular and systematic giving? Are more people giving regularly tithe? Are more people giving regularly and systematically offerings? Then we may expect that there is a spiritual growth. Why? Because Jesus said, wherever your treasure is, your heart will also be. So if more people are giving, we assume that there has been a spiritual growth. Because Jesus said that. And we believe what Jesus said. So that's why on stewardship, we look not on money, we look on people. But so far, we do not have an instrument in the Adventist Church for us to measure that. We are trying hard. We tried different ways. We still do not have a global way to measure that. And maybe you guys may help us someday. But another item that we are looking to, and this is easy for us to find, is to find what we call generosity index. What is the generosity index? I would like to see if that index is growing or not. Generosity index is what is the average percentage that church members in your field are giving as offerings. What is the percent of their income that church members are giving as offerings? How do you calculate that? It's very easy. And you know, I am sure you know. How you calculate what is the average percentage that church members are giving from their income as offering? 10%. It's not an exact calculation, but it will give us a trend if we measure it year by year. 11%. How you know the average income of church members in your field? You multiply tithe by 10, then you have what we assume, it's an assumption, right? We assume is the total income of this field, of this year. Then you compare the total income with offerings. And then you know what is the percentage. In the world, by the data we have, in average, church members are giving 3.6% of their income as offering. But if I would be a stewardship director in your field, I would like to know, in my field, in the field I'm working now, what is the percentage church members are giving from their income as offerings. And one of my goals, if I work in your field, would be do what? To increase that percentage. Maybe I will put a goal. Next year, 4%. What I will do to do that? I will go visit church by church. I will do family finance seminars. I will teach them Bible principles. I will show them that giving is not related to supporting the church, but is worshiping God. That by doing that, their hearts will be attached to God. And then I will invite them to increase their percentages. This is the way. Why? I'll give you just a second. Because we know that at the very end, a lot of offering income will come to the church. What if we could start this in this generation? Because Jesus is coming. But we will start prepare people by teaching them, giving regularly and systematically. So that at the very end, a lot of resources will come, offering resources. Stephen, if you have that index very high, it certainly means that they are diverting tithe. Yeah. That's why you need to balance all the indicators. But why we choose that? Because it's extremely easy to find. We don't have instruments to measure things that pertain to stewardship. But this is quite easy. That's why we decided to use that. And we are using that. Suggested action. Add a line to the Treasury's report at all levels that indicates the monthly number of giving units. The suggestion is to consider, no matter how many times someone gave during a month, it will be considered one. So if you gave like 5 times in 1 month, it will be considered just one. And then some fields are considering 8 participations during the year as regular and systematic giving. Others are considering 9. If you are giving tithe 9 times during the year or 9 months during the year, it will be considered regular and systematic. Second point, to develop and provide an instrument for conferences, unions, and divisions to consolidate data for their territory about a pattern in participation for tithing and regular offerings. We so far don't have anything for that. It's important. We want to know what is the percentage of church members that are regularly tithing. The South America director, stewardship director, told me some 3 or 4 years ago that their number for tithe is as low as 17-something% of regular tithers. 17%. This is very low. But what they discovered, that far more people are giving occasionally tithe. Are giving tithe occasionally. What this data told them? This data told them that those who are giving occasionally do not have any problem with tithing. I mean, they believe that tithe is right, is correct. They only have a problem of being regular. So what he told me, we will focus on those who are tithing occasionally, but have not learned to be regular. And we will try to bring them to regularity. So they are developing programs to help them. Again, what's the purpose of doing that? What is our goal? And God is able to read our minds. God is able to read our hearts. God knows what is our purpose. The purpose of bringing more people to tithing is to glorify ourselves, is to glorify the church, is for the church to have more money. God will judge us for that. So the right purpose for having that is to bring more people closer to God, is to attach their hearts to God, because wherever their treasure is, their heart will also be. Another point that is suggested, to communicate and analyze the trend in the participation in giving during church boards, church administrative meetings, or other adequate local church forums, and to executive committees at all levels regularly. It should become a culture of our church to analyze giving trends. We speak a lot about mission. We speak a lot of total member involvement. We speak a lot of missionary work and missions. But this is what is maintaining the mission, is sustaining the mission. Another suggested action: provide pastors who are approved and trained spiritual leaders with information about individuals. This is very controversial issue. About individual members' participation in tithing for nurture orientation purposes through personal interventions. Next Dynamic Steward magazine, there will be an article about that. An article supporting that. The spiritual reasons why we should know the reality of members. As a local pastor, I don't necessarily need to know what is the amount someone is giving. I don't need that information. But I need to know as a pastor. I need to know if they are giving or not. Why? Because if they are not giving, there is a spiritual issue. It's a spiritual problem. And we need to address that problem. We need to visit people. We need to work with people. We need to pray with them. And they will know, depending the way we do that visitation, they will know if we are really interested in their salvation, or if the money mark is in our eyes. Hey, you are not giving tithe. The church is in need of tithe. They will know. They will see, they will know if we prayed before going to visit them. If we are honestly, sincerely concerned about their spiritual life, they will know. And this is a very delicate task. But no one said that it's easy. It's a very difficult thing. It's something that requires us a lot of prayer. But we are not here to do easy things. And the more we get closer to Jesus' coming, the more those things will become difficult. But we are called to give an account of those God placed under our guidance as pastors. So we need to care for their souls. We need to go after them and look for them. The reason, I believe, the main reason why it is so difficult is because of the donation mindset. They believe that if they go to the church member and ask them to return tithe, it's like I'm asking a donation to the church. And this is what is blocking. But once we are able, by God's word and spiritual prophecy, to help them to see the truth and to change the mindset and to see giving as a spiritual issue that connects them to God, it's an exercise of faith. Let me, I know you are waiting. We used to teach people that the more you give, the more you will have, right? Because God will bless you and so on and so on. I have learned to teach people the opposite. But in my experience, the more I give, the less I have. The more I give, the less I have. But then, in order to survive, I need to pray more. It's an act of faith. It's like I am learning to live by faith. I need a miracle every month to survive. Otherwise, I will not survive. And then I see God's action in my life and life of my family. So I don't give to have more. I give to have less. And by having less, I'm forced to pray more. And to live by faith. And in the very end, we will not have any income because we will not be able to sell, net to purchase. And we will need to have learned before that to live by faith. How to live by faith. So it's a lesson of spiritual growth. If we don't talk about it, we will be responsible for them in one day. God will ask us. So thank you for your question. You need to earn the authority to speak. That's not automatic. Once you earn that authority, you can go, you can speak. They will see that you love them. But it should not be the first visit. You cannot just... The first visit you do is to speak about tithes. They will not believe you have love for them. They will not believe that. But if you are regularly visiting them, relating to them as Tim said, chances are greater. And when I am able, I am teaching pastors to look to those financial reports from the perspective of the cross. Don't look how much the church is earning, but there are names of people here. Some will go to heaven, some will not. What can I do with this data? Some of them are about to leave the church. They are not relating to God. They don't believe God cares. I am tithing now. I'm giving offering. You also. The first thing I will do once I stop trusting God will be stop tithing. Because if there is no one there taking care of me, I need to take care of myself. I will keep that money for me. I will not give to the church. I will not give to those guys that money. You see? So the first thing I will do will stop tithing. Far before leaving the church. Leaving the church is a process, but it starts by stopping tithing. When I stop tithing, means I no longer believe the Bible says what it says. I no longer believe that there is a God in heaven that sustains me and keeps me and provides for me. And if I am a church member, I am still in the church. I have not left the church yet. If I have a pastor, this pastor is supposed to come to help me. Maybe help to stop that process of drifting away from the church. I will suggest you. I know the realities are different and vary, but at least once a year, we need to have a ministerial council with stewardship issues. Someone speaking to them. someone helping them to grow in this area of the church. Because if they don't listen anything, they don't know. They need to be educated. Fifth point, to prepare inspiring stewardship resources in formats and share on platforms that are user-friendly to the generational and geographic profiles of church members. First point, as action, suggested action, invest more resources in developing stewardship resources for children, teens, and young adults. How are we engaging our children? Sabbath school, children's Sabbath school is an amazing opportunity for us to engage children. And once you get them on the habit of returning tithe, when they will receive their allowances from their parents, from their grandmas, and returning their tithe, we are attaching their hearts to heaven. This is my motivation when I talk to children and to parents, for them to give an allowance to their children, to educate children to return tithe. And sometimes we have pity on them, and we would not like them to give. I remember one day, one of my daughters, I knew she was canvassing, and she came with a regular sum of money, and she was keeping that money at home. And then I said to her, I thought, I will teach her how to manage her money. I will teach her how to open a bank account and to keep it on saving account for that money to grow a little bit. So I will teach her how to manage her money. But I did not say anything to her. But one day, one afternoon, I was in my office and I was reminded of that. I said, today I will call her. I called her from my office and I said, Luana is her name. Luana, I would like to tell you something. Why not to open a bank account and to put your money there for your money to grow? And I gave her a nice explanation. And then she said, Daddy, I no longer have that money. And I said, what? Because Ellen White says that parents should know how children are spending their money. Sometimes they are not spending in a nice way. And we are their guardians. We need to know. Some children are using drugs and parents are giving money. So we need to know. And I said, what? I was almost impatient on what I said. And she said, yeah, I no longer have that money. And I said, what did you do with that money? And then she said, that last Sabbath in the church, our pastor said that they will renew the church. And he was asking church members to give sacrificial offerings. And then I was so impressed, and I decided to give that amount for the church renewal. While she was saying that, internally I was saying, no, don't give all. No. You see, and I was about to open my mouth to say, you don't need to give all. You just give a part of it. You don't need to give all. And when I was about to say, I was reminded of Ellen White says. Ellen White says that children are more open than we old guys. They are more open. And we need to take advantage of that time in life to engage them in regular and systematic giving. And so I was still struggling inside myself, and I said, okay, you did what was right. But my desire was to say, you just give tithe and offering, and that's it. You keep the rest for you. You see, we have pity on them, but remember, help them to grow. And she was always having money. God would provide. She gave, and God gave back to her. And even today, they are living by miracle. It's interesting. But while they are still with us, we need to teach them to engage in regular and systematic giving for spiritual purposes. And that's it. This is our what is proposed in our partnership with treasurers.